As quickly as I encounter Andres Forgax, we chief external in the chilly common cold of Davos. Natural he reaches for his overcoat, but I am lightly amazed at which he pulls out, its fair irregular, dark puffer coat. As the founding member and head execution of a begin-up company how has created a vegetarian option to skin, I anticipated him to be tiring a overcoat done out of his own content. In fact, it's a bit too quickly for how. Contemporary Grassland, the business he set up 8 years back, is yet making the cloth he has intended just in little quantities. It's a large marketplace in large shortcomings. You include to lift and pet in a box with up water supply, gas and creation hothouse emissions, and later transmission the conceal part way about the planet. Separately of the ecological damage, down there is enormous loss in the production. Up to part of a heifer hide can be vain due to imperfections such as bites. In gator and alligator leather, he says it's the worst, in up to 90% of the content vain since of the requirement for a ultimate design. Industry Advising Company Great Type Study, GVR, has forecasted the world artificial skin marketplace will hit $85 billion by 2025. It cites the reduced price of making pet-free means on in the growing quantity of consumer choice for pet-free material. As weaving technique is developing, consumer are preferring vegetarian vogue, it told. Mr. Forgax says the at first food done of the content will be startup the year, but refuses to say which it will be. Instead of, love a traveling car seller show off his goods, he pulls out several samples of production of a directory he is transport about in him. The trimming differ in color, thick and pattern but stake one key item in overall, no cow was annihilated in their create. The food is created of leaven cells how are fermented in a such way to ale to build collagen production, the fiber how gives leather its force and elastic. Of there the collagen production is treated and collected in distinctive content structures how can be tailored in different ways depending on its goal. A t-shirt done with the new content, named Zoa, was authorized and purchased to the Constant Gallery by the Museum of Contemporary Art in New York as an sample of the next of Vogue, but Mr. Forgax says his company is targeting more than rather than fair the Vogue production. Ultimately, he expects the cloth to be utilized for a kind of need, consisting clothes, shoes, handbags, car and aircraft interiors, and furnishings. Mr. Forgax is sure down there will be consumer demand for it, especially of opulence brands searching out alternatives to pet means among increasing customer concern. So known planner brands consisting LVMH, Furla and Michael Kors include already begun substitute fur and skin in option pet-friendly material. Steel McCartney has lost future, in her mark changing to vegetarian Vogue, with fungi instead of skin, and substitute silky in leaven protein food. It's a tendency how seems to include escape the collection of policy leaders and business bosses at the Planet Economical Message Board, lot of whom are decked out of chief to toe in fur to chamber off the common cold. But Mr. Forgax says it's realistic to wait human beings to changing their manners. He believes representing a sustainable option to such a overall and famous cloth love skin is an facilitating way to driving changing. It's difficult to leave which you loving. If you can do which you loving and yet not damage the earth, how superior, he says. In reality, it was time he was tucking in an imported beefsteak time residing in China how he had the concept for the business. It's one item to recite on it and else to dwell it. I fair saw firsthand the blast in intake and the change of an exportable driven economics to a more than rich grade, he says. His aspiring aim is not just to simulate skin but to enhance on it. We're with the aspects of skin such as its heat and mildness, but looking at how to do it superior, more than lasting, more than easy, more than permeable. The reality how they are creation the content, instead of take it off a cow, tool they can differ it yet they love, creation various shapes, sizes and thicknesses depending on its goal. In conventional content, you get which you get of the behind of the pet and house it, he says. The is Mr. Forgax tertiary begin-up company. He has start up all of them in his physic dad and all of them are scientific based. Time his backdrop is in financial, and he previous treated on side road and in enterprise equity. He says his scholar parents instilled in him a loving of scientific and the environmental. His at first company was named Organovo and utilized 3D print to build humane fabric how could be utilized for care study. As we advanced how technique, some adjoining opportunities constructed up. If you can do leather you can do skin, if you can do brawn you can do flesh, he says. Initially, contemporary grassland concentrated on creation both of vegetarian meal and the skin-like content, but Mr. Forgax ultimately solved the industries were just too various. As a outcome, the meal technique was twisted out to a individual industry named Fork and Good, and contemporary grassland's single attention now is on creation option vegetarian material. Will we begin to see human beings with means done of his content quickly? He is diamond how we will. Time the business now employs 90 human beings, it has now partnered in a company to cook its leaven in big quantities. But don't wait to see clothing done of it in a top road store close you any period quickly. It's not quite to supporting a Dark Friday feast trading binge, we'll include to construct up to how, he says. But maybe it's quite to do certainly how while he following returns to Davos, same will be tiring a overcoat done out of his own vegetarian content.